But what about you guys? I'm curious what your non-spoiler thoughts were.
In the lightest possible way, I really hated the book. Welcome everyone to a Two to Round podcast episode. My name is Richard.
My name is Austin.
Today we got two very special guests talking about this book today. You saw in the title, we have Nicole and Lexi from the Fantasy Fangirls podcast. Welcome very much.
Thank you so much. It's so exciting to be here, especially to talk about Fourth Wing.
We love Fourth Wing. We're very excited.
We're so excited to hear your thoughts as well.
I'm actually really excited. A little nervous, but like excited nervous. You know, nerve-sided.
Not to make you more nerve-sided, but just to show how passionate we are here about Fourth Wing. And you know, it's not a book made for us, okay? We're going to be very clear. We're going to give spoiler-free for the first 10 minutes. From two very epic fantasy nerds to Nicole and Lexi, who Fantasy Fangirls, this is up their alley. So it'll be very interesting of a conversation. But just to show you how much passion we have, I came prepared.
Yes!
I will fly. Even if I didn't like the book, I will fly and I will have fun and I will breathe fire. Okay, so I'm going to embarrassingly keep this on the whole time. And anyways, so we're going to talk Fourth Wing. Rich, to start us off with Fourth Wing, and if you want to toss it towards Nicole and Lexi's way, you also didn't, Fourth Wing's not for us, right?
No, it was not. It was didn't love the book, not particularly.
However, you're excited.
I'm still excited to talk about it because this is going to be a far better conversation than if we just talked about it by ourselves. 100%.
1,000%.
This is way better.
This is going to be so much more fun because who would you say? So Nicole, Lexi, whoever wants to take over first for Fourth Wing, just spoiler free.
Well, also, before anything,
okay,
tell us a little bit about yourselves, what your podcast is on. Give us that information first.
That's also important.
Well, our podcast is on Fourth Wing. We are two sisters who deep dive fantasy books in very, very, very deep dive manner. So like we take a few chapters of a book, for instance, Fourth Wing on this side is where we started, and we'll do 5 to 8 chapters at a time, and we'll just go through basically line by line. We'll talk about foreshadowing, theories, character analysis, favorite moments.
A lot of lore. That's my jam. I am such a lore nerd. And so we talk about all of the things that might seem a little bit complicated and present it in a easy to digest manner too.
Definitely.
And the theories. Absolutely. We love especially talking about theories.
And our audience loves deep dive. So no kidding, Nicole and Lexi, you go chapter by chapter and hours long and very highly edited. So if you guys are all into that, go check out their channel. They talk about Fourth Wing and much more. So Nicole and Lexi for Fourth Wing. But before we say that, one more thing to preface. It was so uncomfortable. We were talking 15, 20 minutes before this call, and I had to hide the wings like this. If you didn't notice, I was like this the whole time, like a stick figure.
I thought you were just nervous.
Well, I am, but it was so weird. So you didn't even know you can't, one strap disguised with the wire.
Mic string.
I thought it was, I thought we got all sorts of cords around here. Yeah, that's what I was assuming. Good job. I love it.
Well done.
For those unfamiliar, the reason I have dragon wings on, Fourth Wing has dragons and a lot of
Dragon Rider fantasy romance.
Yes.
That's Fourth Wing for you in a nutshell. And for next couple minutes, 10-ish minutes, we'll be talking about our thoughts, spoiler free if you haven't read the book and care about spoilers. However, from my experience and talking to other people, romance genre generally the spoilers aren't as important. But this book we'll argue that point in a little differently.
Yeah.
I just remember when reading ACOTAR, I enjoyed the book more because I was spoiled. Spoilers did not matter for that book.
Book 1 spoilers don't matter as much as book 2 spoilers.
Oh,
yeah. Talk to us after you read book 2.
Yes.
I think that's the best way we can put it. In that
and I will say everybody has very different opinions on spoilers, and we have learned our lesson in multiple situations. I will just leave it at that.
I do think when it comes to spoilers, talking in tropes is sometimes viewed as okay. So for instance, if we're looking at tropes when it comes to Fourth Wing, I knew like the premise of the book was basically How to Train Your Dragon meets Harry Potter, and then throw in romance. And I was like, sold.
And a little bit of Game of Thrones too.
A little bit of Game of Thrones thrown in there too. And
with
I
the
was
dragons.
like, that's all I needed to hear. Sign me up. I will go on this ride with Rebecca Yarros taking me by the hand. So that I think is generally okay. I don't know, Lexi, would you agree?
Oh, we
honestly
even go a little further in of talking about generally what the book's about without getting into specific plot spoilers. But overall, if you can't already tell, but if you don't, Nicole, we'll start with you. What did you think about this book in a non-spoiler way? What do you feel about it?
I feel like this was the book for the grown-up Twilight lovers and the people who loved Twilight, but then were like, that's actually very stupid. I don't like this book at all. And then they grew up and they started reading Fourth Wing and they're like, oh, I really enjoy it. Now, I'm not saying it's the same, but I am saying there is some parallels, I'll call it, especially when it comes to the romance being very, I won't say front and center, but it's very like paired with the fantasy and the lore that's built in it. I love this book. It was not the book that got me back into reading. That was A Court of Thorns and Roses. But I think it's the book that I'd say, Lexi, for you and I, it was the book that really took us on quite the journey. It's the book that we started Fantasy Fangirls with. So, of course, I have like a super special place in my heart for it with that. But I love any book that's set in a school. I love a school setting. So automatically, I think that bumped it up a few of the ratings for me.
So you're Harry Potter-esque.
I love it. Yep. I love a school. Any class. We are
Harry Potter girls for sure.
Yes, we're Harry Potter. We're definitely Harry Potter people.
And for me, so between the two of us, Nicole is definitely more of the hopeless romantic, and then I am definitely more of like, give me the high fantasy. And so I like her, she told me, you have to read this book, ACOTAR, and I look it up and I was like, Nicole, there is no book named ACOTAR. Anyway, that's a whole other. That's not this video. After I finished the ACOTAR series, she's like, okay, now here is Fourth Wing, and it took me a little while to get into it. It was a little bit of a slow start to it, only because I was still stuck in Prythian. And when a certain thing happens in Fourth Wing, that's when I was personally fully invested. The romance for it, like, yes, of course I love Xaden. Of course I love all of that. For me, that is very much secondary to the lore that is really set up in Fourth Wing. And of course, both Nicole and I have read Iron Flame. I know we're not talking about spoilers or any about that today, but Fourth Wing is a really good setup for the continued lore and world building that you continue experiencing throughout Iron Flame, and then what we are promised for the rest of the series too. So that to me, like, really spoke to me. I love the magic system. Yep, I'm not going to say spoilers. I love the magic system. I love the dragons. I do love the military setup around it. I love some of the side characters. They're really fun. Mm-hmm. So that was that for me too. But yeah, when I have reread it, I love Xaden and Violet, and the romance is a little bit in my face where I'm kind of able to compartmentalize that and then move forward with the fantasy elements.
Put it in a little box. And this is something that Lexi and I can speak to. And Rich and Austin, I won't make you reread this book by any means, but I do think that this book is one of those books that you reread and you're like, oh my God, they really knew what they were doing, especially when you learn some things from Iron Flame. That's I think one of my favorite things about stories like Fourth Wing, and I'll even throw A Court of Thorns and Roses in there too, just because they're very much like the two big pillars of romantasy. When you go back and reread those books, you have, like, at least me, I have like an out of body experience. I'm like, oh my God, that's what that line means, when you totally skipped over it the first time.
We can totally relate to that with some of our favorite series.
Oh, I'm
that's
sure.
Always exciting.
That exactly. And Fourth Wing, especially, like, with those, it has so many Easter eggs in it that you don't appreciate on the first read. And then when you look back on it, especially after reading Iron Flame, it's like, oh my gosh, this was all right here, like, in front of us.
But what about you guys? I'm curious what your non-spoiler thoughts were.
Thoughts, Rich.
In the lightest possible way, I really hated the book.
Like, viscerally.
I want to describe. It was ACOTAR I didn't like, but I appreciated to a certain degree, and I had no trouble reading that book. I was on the plane. I was reading it for hours, just going through. it was fine for me. And I have my complaints about the book. Fourth Wing was hard to pick up for me. I struggled a little bit on actually finishing the book. So that's my thoughts.
Did you two? You've all brought up Fourth Wing and Akatar. Are you both in agreement that Fourth Wing's better than Akatar, where Rich thinks that Akatar's
No.
No,
I don't even think-
book one.
That's
I actually
weird.
did not like book one of Akatar very much.
Okay,
Nicole had to
interesting.
really make me continue
I'd
reading the
force her.
series. And then book two was like, oh my gosh, this is like, sign me up for this genre.
Got it.
And when I think about Fourth Wing and Akatar, the first book, I do like Fourth Wing more. But when I look at, I'll say the overarching series, then I think I do like Akatar more.
Interesting.
Got it. See, these are the only two romantasy books I've read are Akatar and Fourth Wing. And again, not going to spoil either book, but with Akatar and Fourth Wing, I went in with the expectation that it's not for me. So Akatar, I didn't love Akatar, but we had such a fun time recording that video.
Yeah.
It was great. Fourth Wing, for me, I like it better than Akatar. It was easier for me to read Fourth Wing than it was to read Akatar. However, I can't say I'm a fan. So, but that's why you two are here.
That's so weird
What's
because
that?
I acknowledge the same thing of Fourth Wing is a better written book, that it is a better book than Akatar.
I think it has to be.
But there were some certain elements of Fourth Wing that annoyed me. And it was
I
just like,
can't wait to hear
it pissed
every
me
single
off,
one
and
of
I was
them.
just want to throw the book. That was it. But nothing in Akatar annoyed me.
But maybe
That
Fourth
was the
Wing,
difference.
Fourth Wing had the potential that it annoyed you because of the potential it had. Whereas Akatar,
Maybe so.
I don't know. I don't know.
Could be.
Here's what I will say when it comes to Fourth Wing, because there is so much hype. I'll say there's a lot of hype around Akatar and Fourth Wing. But for a lot of people, Akatar, people go in blind. Like they do not know what to expect. It's their gateway into this like genre and all this kind of stuff. So they're a little bit more of an open book, pun intended, but like when it comes to Fourth Wing, I feel like because it's all over the internet, especially right now, there is a much higher expectation that people have on it. And so I wonder if that can sometimes adjust expectations or something along those lines.
That's
Maybe.
interesting because I know a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I've been seeing this book Akatar all over the place, or they started with Fourth Wing. Fourth Wing was the gateway the gateway book for a lot of fantasy readers too. And anyway, I'm excited to talk more about this.
Me too.
Well, let's get into spoilers and give a good spoiler warning for anybody watching. Tune off if you don't want spoilers. Continue watching if you don't care, but also if you just want to see whatever is about to happen. So
I'm very interested.
So the way we usually set up reviews is we have these 6 categories, and the first one we go with is emotional impact. And all that really means is we're just talking about the emotional moments in Fourth Wing. What was it going for? And also what did it for you? So can you just, touching in spoiler free, how Lexi, you love the world aspects, you love the lore and the dragon, and Nicole, you're the hopeless romantic. So are those the reasons why this book, Lexi, we could start with you, of what emotionally spoke to you in Fourth Wing?
Yes, definitely. I'll say the world, and I could feel myself really starting to lean into it. Like I was saying there during the spoiler-free part of it, it was really during Threshing that I got emotionally invested in this book. Before that, I was a little bit like, all right, like this is good, this is fine. And then that was when it was like, oh my gosh, there are 2 dragons, like kind of like what is going to happen next, and what is her signet going to be? And then when it turns out to be lightning, and so much different than kind of like what anybody would have expected, and just I really felt the sense of camaraderie with Violet, and I loved, Terrence's character with like his sassiness there, and like I just found myself like really just having a good time with the book. And that to me, like as much as we do our deep dives, and I love my fantasy lore and all of that kind of stuff, like when it is a good time, and especially when I get really excited about the world building, that is when it's a 5-star book for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so especially again in Fourth Wing, it really is more of a setup for the world building, and you learn a lot of, like, it's kind of like half, most of the book you're learning and learning and learning, and then towards the very end it all flips on its head, and it's a really big message with all of that, and it's really cool how then that leads into the next book. So
I kind of want to toe the line because, Rich, I don't know about you, but something interesting to me, our first 2 categories are emotional impact and messages themes, like thought-provokingness. let's combine these two because Rich,
Sure.
you just, Lexi, you bring up that point. Rich and I, when we're looking at books, looking at the messages and themes, what did you get out of it that Fourth Wing, both what connected with you and obviously what didn't connect with you, but also what I think there's more interesting conversation to be had about this genre and Fourth Wing itself that we are so curious to pick your brains about as well. So Rich, do you want to curve into that?
Sure. Before we move on to you, Nicole, talking about specifically the world, so I understand it was a setup, especially with the ending of the book, clearly showing like, hey, Violet's on the wrong side, basically. That's the ending of the book is, their whole kingdom is messed up.
Yeah.
For most of the book, I was also knew that, but there were some things that just irked me wrong of like, I didn't understand why the kingdom, in my perspective, was being dumb. Like with their treatment of the kids was strange to me.
Is it because they're like go off and kill each other and it doesn't mean anything? Like death is so because my husband he's now read both of these books and he like capital H hates when people are just like killed for no reason, and I'm like, but that's the culture, and he's like, but it's stupid. Like he gets so angry about it.
I find it weird that the kingdom was on one hand is like, okay, slaughter all the nobles because they rebel. Okay, I get it. But then like, and cruelty, let's make the kids watch. I'm like, that's not a good idea. Like if they're already that cruel, why not just kill the children? And then, okay, fine, we're not going to kill the children, but we're going to separate them, make sure they don't have any positions of power so they can't like rebel again. That'd be good. No. Let's put them in the military and put them in the highest levels of position where, oh my God, they actually have dragons now. And so, okay, now they're big parts of our military organization. And then instead of trying to bring them into the fold, let's keep antagonizing them. Let's keep prodding them and making them sure they hate us.
Okay, I have a proposal.
Even though they have dragons. That was like, what are you doing?
Okay, I'm sorry. Our whole 6 categories we had where we were trying to go with emotion, then top. Now we're going to screw our categories.
That's what made me emotional.
Hold on. Screw our categories. We're just going to go one thing to the next. Nope, I'm closing my laptop. Okay, forget our whole schedule that we had. Let's go right into that and just toss back and forth what we think about this book. What do you think about what do you think about what Rich said? Let's just go. Okay, it's chaos. Let's go.
First of all, like, okay, so yes, so there is a rebellion, and first of all, like before I say anything else, like I totally get it, Rich. Like, we know there are a lot of people who are not crazy about this book, and especially with the way that the Navarre culture is, and especially how the military is set up with all of that. It's like, yes, it is very much like that on purpose because it is supposed to raise some eyebrows here. And yes, like General Melgren, especially, who is the one who made sure that, all the parents were executed and that the children watched. Although if you want to get technical, they were not actually required to, but they chose to. But then I lost my train of thought. I was getting heated.
People are not going to like this book. And like at the end of the day, like our job is not to sit here and convince you all to like this book, but I'm very excited for this debate.
That is not your job. The job is just to explain to us why you like it. That's fine.
And so the way that Navarre is set up, it is very much of a like very isolated. Like they are like, no, like we are going to protect ours and that's it. And so when the rebellion happened and they're like, no, like we think that this should actually be, we should be protecting everybody. Like we should be helping poor meal and such like that. And Navarre was like, no, like that's not how we've done things for over 400 years. We're going to stomp on you. And not only that, but we are going to prove to the next generation that they are not above our decree, so to speak. So that is why they are essentially so, I'll say, cruel to those children. Now, without spoilers, you do find out why they do go to the writer's quadrant. There is a reason behind that in the second book and why they were not outright killed. So I hear you on that. And there is still a little bit of that mystery about like, why in the world was it this case? And it's like, oh, well, you find out, I promise. But yes.
I was just so confused with how they were treating them of going, these are your dragon riders. One, you're losing dragon riders. Like, so things are not going well. And then they're so important. And then also, let's kind of throw them away. I don't know. It felt weird of how they treated them.
in order to not be, because a lot of them did want to kill the children as well. Again, just get rid of all of them so that they didn't have to worry about the next generation wanting to take over as well. Because that generation also knew the secret, because their parents knew the secret. So they're trying to keep everything hush hush, right? And so when that happened, then they were like, oh, okay, well, we will agree to let you into the writer's quadrant, because they did not think any dragons would pick them, because they thought that the dragons were all smarter than that. Well, guess what? The dragons are also torn and they have their own opinions. And so everybody was absolutely shocked when Xaden and a few of the other people were bonded with dragons, and then nobody could do anything about it. And so the plan kind of backfired, that they were all going to die in the writer's quadrant. And then the reason that they're all treated differently is because Navarre was essentially, the propaganda is that these rebels were terrible. Like it was a civil war where everybody fought against each other. And now these children of whose parents like literally killed other people's parents and whatnot, they all have to suddenly be in the same classroom together.
Mm-hmm. Well, not to mention, so as you're walking across the parapet in your first year, what is it? 21% of Violet's year dies, or is it more than that? 21. It's in the 20% of her year dies. Then over half of those cadets are going to die by their second year. Then a third of those cadets are going to die by their third year, and then another third of those cadets are going to die by their graduation. I am not going to do that math right now. That would hurt my head. But basically what they're saying is, like at they meaning the leadership, they were also like, oh, go into the writer's quadrant and everyone's going to hate you so much that they're just going to target you and kill you. And that obviously didn't work, because Xaden was like, watch me roll up the ranks and end up the wing leader of Fourth Wing. My guy, my boy Xaden Ryerson. I love him.
Oh, that's a great transition, Nicole. That's then we can go back to this world point. We're just gonna jumble back and forth with everything. So as the hopeless romantic, Nicole. So when we're introduced to Violet, and obviously there's this love triangle between Violet, Dane, and Xaden, and the way that also there was that kid Dylan in the first chapter. Do we remember Dylan?
Poor Dylan.
Dylan, as soon as he says he's engaged, dead.
Yeah,
he's not making it.
100%. I heard that. Like, I decided not to propose to her until I'm like, you're dead.
Oh, he's a character with no flaws and just living a good life. Yeah, he's
even
dead.
better. He's a character with no flaws, has an engagement, and he's also not an available bachelor for Violet. He's dead.
That's it.
Gone. Absolutely no worth to have in that story.
Poor guy. I will always remember Dylan. The guy who does not have a last name.
You know what? Dylan's my favorite character, I think. Oh, yeah. He did nothing wrong.
Well,
oh my God.
Caveat, my favorite character is Xaden's friend. The
Garrick.
guy makes
Yes. Is it Derek?
Garrick
and
Bodie.
So in
is it?
I thought it was
Garrick?
Liam or something.
Liam.
I thought it was Liam.
Yeah, of course, there's Liam too. He has so many friends. Yeah,
I like Liam. Love Liam. He was chill.
Right.
He was great.
I love Liam. I gave him a whole eulogy on our podcast.
It was. I cried.
There were multiple tears.
Liam was nice. Yeah, he was nice.
Liam was great. We love
but
Liam.
So talk about Violet and Dane and Xaden. So we're introduced to this love triangle initially, where you have her and her childhood friend, and she ends up going to the writer's quadrant. And you can kind of see, like, okay, what's being set up. You got your bad boy character and your rule follower character.
I think there was a line specifically there of there was one rule at Dragon School: stay away from Xaden Ryerson. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And
got it.
That's going to be broken.
I mean, when she was first introduced to him, it was something along the lines of,
he's the most beautiful man I've ever seen.
Yeah, something along the lines of he's the most beautiful man. And I had already read some other romantasy at that point, and I was like, I know what's going to happen here. It's not supposed to be a surprise element.
No. And I gotta say, because when I'm reading our nerdy, I could geek out over Stormlight or something, and I eat up some certain lines, or our Discord where people can see I eat up certain lines. I'm like, oh my God, yes. And I think the version in Fourth Wing is, there was this line where Violet just says, I looked at Xaden, all 6 foot everything of him. And then I was just like, oh my God. First off, offended. I'm not 6 foot. And so I was personally offended, first off. But second, I'm just going I know I'm reading that and I can give a big eye roll. And then I just know that's not a lot, these kind of, the internal dialogue, the internal monologue of Violet.
Oh yeah.
So seeing her internal dialogue constantly initially with Dane, she was good friends with Dane. And obviously he at a certain point sorry, I'm going to ramble off for a second. I'll get to a point with this. But
No, you're good.
Dane, to a certain point, he was in the right for a little bit. And then instantly became wrong when he didn't trust Violet. And then also, she's bonding dragons. You still don't like. There's a certain point where she's so successful in dragon school that Dane just becomes
But you're frail. You're fragile. You're gonna break. And she's like, I have.
Are we allowed to
two
cuss on
dragons.
this?
Oh yeah, am I good to cuss?
Yes, yeah,
you're
curse
good.
away.
We
Curse
call him
away.
God fucking damn it Dane. Is what we call him.
Segment called God fucking damn it Dane on our podcast. At least
The thing with Violet and Dane, I remember the first interactions where her goal was, okay, I don't want to go to the Rider Squadron. My mom's forcing me into the Rider Squadron. Okay, so
for years I've been studying to be a scribe.
I
want to do that.
I want to be scribe. Dane initially, before she gets a little successful, is like, okay, I'm gonna get you out. I'm gonna make you a scribe, and she becomes angry because it's what she's thinking in her head, but she doesn't want him to say it to her. It was like she was getting frustrated that she was acknowledging the flaws in her head, that kind of thing. Of like, she was frustrated that like Dane, she was all for going to be a scribe until Dane said, I'm going to help you out and be a scribe. So the first reaction I had was like, a story could be over. Let's go. Your mom will never find out. And okay, another thing with the mom. The mom is awful. Not just awful as like she's mean, but she's like, hey, I want you to be you're a Sorrengaut, you're going to be a rider. Great. Okay, she's not great. Like the mom is mean, forcing her to do something she doesn't want to do. And then she ends up being badass, getting multiple dragons. Mom still gives her the cold shoulder of like, oh, well, you didn't show the power yet. I'm like, what is in your head? She's everything you wanted her to be. Not in the way that, I don't know. What am I doing?
Also, a little pet peeve for me was
Austin,
like, hey,
say.
I'm going to force you to be in dragon school, but instead of, forcing you to train for at least, after your dad died, immediately, all right, you're going to train. No, let's let that pass in 6 months. 6 months at the deadline. All right, now train. It's like, give her some time.
I'm curious,
that was
how does she
pretty
think that's
soon
going to
after
succeed?
her father did pass away. So it was a very short turnaround after
It was
her
a short
father
turnaround?
passed away.
Yeah.
Yes, it was
I thought it was
her
about a
father died
year.
within the past year, right?
Yes, and then
Nicole?
it was 6 months of her training, and then she gets into the Rider Squadron. But I think that there was like a buffer time of like 3 to 4 months where Lilith was like, should I, shouldn't I? Should I, shouldn't I?
And
There is
so
some
there are
information
some-
that I cannot say that we know.
And
in
so I'm just
regards
going
to
to toss
this.
out a few. There were two primary theories out there. One was that Lilith really did hate her daughter and she wanted her to fail, and so she wanted her to go into the Rider Squadron to die.
Which is why there was a storm on the parapet when she was crossing, considering
Because she had the
Lilith's
signet
storm
power, and so she
signet,
was
yeah.
literally trying to kill her daughter. Yep.
Yep.
And then the second theory is that she knew that Violet would ultimately find out the truth, and therefore she would be killed for it because she knew that she would want to do the right thing. So she was
Scribe
actually in Scribe Quadrant. So she was actually protecting her by taking her out of the Scribe Quadrant to put her into the Writer's Quadrant, where instead of being a sure death in the Scribe Quadrant, she would actually at least have a chance as a badass dragon rider.
To the first point of the scribe one, how do the other scribes not,
How do
all
the
get
other
killed?
scribes not know?
Yeah, that's
Well,
a
okay,
good
so
question.
Well, because
so-
and if they do know, why can't Violet also keep her trap shut?
Because Violet's far too
She's smart.
So that is one of the things when it comes to Violet Sorrengail. She is highly, highly intelligent, which Lilith knows, and she's like, Violet's going to figure it out. There's Markham. Yes, Markham is the head of the scribes, and he basically chose Violet as his protege to bring up the ranks and basically replace him when he dies. And Lilith knew that Violet was way, way, way too intelligent to go up the ranks. Not only
to listen to his propaganda, because
Yes.
he is the ultimate propaganda guy, and so she knew that her daughter was going to be too smart
and also
there
too good to let a bunch of civilians just get offed and die outside their borders and they do nothing about it.
There's
Hence,
also a
Battle of
theory
Acme.
that her father did not actually die solely of a heart attack, but because we can assume that he knew what happened, and from his research that he was actually killed by leadership.
Yeah.
And so that scared Lilith, because she thought that then they were also going to kill her daughter, who would ultimately find out. So she wanted to pull her out of that and put her into the badass area.
Get some dragons.
These don't seem like good plans.
I repeat, you're gonna love Iron Flame.
I feel like we're missing, like, why not the soldier quadrant? Infantry.
Who wants to read a book about the infantry?
Because
Yes,
Sorengales
more
are
boring-
dragon riders.
More
Sorengales are
boring
dragon
book, but
riders.
seems like a better plan.
To put on that point,
Because people who are bonded with dragons, nobody messes with them.
That's true.
Yeah, but like you
Badass.
said before, most people die, and they're
That's
healthy
true.
and training. She does have brittle bones. Dane had a great point in the beginning of, you break your leg when you hop off the stairs. Like, that's a reasonable. He's lived with her for so long. Him going, yeah, you break like a twig. We're gonna get you out of here because most healthy people die. No. That's a
Only
reasonable
there was
reaction.
a way that her mother might have ensured that her daughter survived.
If only.
Wait, did she make her have brittle bones and like make her daughter
she
weak?
actually if no, this is something that we can share though, Nicole, because Violet actually does have a chronic illness, and while it's not ever said on the page, she does have
Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
thank you, Elders down. I only know of it as EDS, but yes, can you say that again and just cut my part out, please? Thank you.
Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
Okay.
That one.
Okay. So Violet has Ehlers-Danlos. Can you just say this
Violet
whole part,
has
Nicole, so you can just cut me out so I'm not. Yes, thank you.
So it's explained in interviews with Rebecca Yarros that Violet has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is what Rebecca and her 3 boys also
I think
have.
4 of them.
3 or 4 boys also have. So it's basically this chronic illness where, and there's a lot more to it, but one of the main things about it is that your bones your joints fall out of socket, your bones break really easily, and that is one of the things that Violet just lives with really easily. Now, lives with on a day-to-day, but to her, in her camp on this one, like that's in that in her advantage, there we go, is that she knows how to deal with pain on a daily basis, where a lot of writers are like, oh no, I'm hurt from sparring and I can't function, and she's like, that is a Tuesday for me, that's a normal day. So maybe she was born to be a dragon rider. That's why 2 dragons chose her.
That brings me to one of my, you know what? We've been rambling off. I'll issue in a complaint. I'm going to put in a complaint about the book. Officially, this is an official complaint that I have, okay?
Oh, official.
A formal complaint.
Formal complaints. Actually, we're seeing Rebecca Yarros this month because she's coming to the National Book we live near DC, so she's coming to the Library of Congress for some events. So we're going to see her. It's
wear the dragon wings. That's my
absolutely.
request.
I will fly in. We should film it.
Oh my goodness, how fun.
But my issued formal complaint, so Violet's character being brittle and having her physical weakness is one of her, whether it's a flaw, just one of the things that ails her when obviously going into rider school. So it's presented in this that you don't just need physical strength. One of the messages to have courage, that there's more than just physical strength. So one of my formal complaints is to emphasize that message. She gets the strongest dragon and can now shoot lightning and like destroy with her hands. I guess one of my formal complaints is her weakness has a solution in magic in a way. Not that she can just have strong bones again, but I would have liked it if her power and her manifestation came in a way that had to deal with her flaw as a character in a way that was true courage, because I think lightning isn't super courageous. There was another way that she could overcome and show her courage, that you don't need to be a badass. You don't need to shoot lightning. You could still be.
To add on the positive, I really liked it of how she dealt with the duels. That's exactly how
poisoning
the duels were just,
yes.
instead of her just like training and
She
like
poisoned them.
she beats them.
Yeah.
She's like, no,
She outsmarts them. Yeah.
brittle bones, I'm going to outsmart them. I'm going to
And
poison them.
just
all.
lightning is not an
Cool.
outsmart thing. Lightning is just lightning things.
So
Okay.
real quickly on that note
Yeah.
is so yes, and she also, like, in her heart, you could say one of her weaknesses is that she doesn't want to kill people. And so, like, that's one of the real things that she grapples with that signet power, is that, yes, it is all powerful and she can destroy, but she is not somebody who is a destroyer. So for her, it almost is a weakness in that way, because she doesn't want to use that signet in that destructive kind of way.
So signets manifest based off of two things: who you are at your core and what you need. And with Violet, this need, she has been weak her entire life, right? And she's always been viewed as lesser because of it. So having God fucking damn it, Dave. But then there's this whole other side of her at her core that is the most powerful, the most badass. And she has the largest dragon to prove it. And then she has a signet that can literally turn the tides of any war. So I think that that's just such a play on who she's been told to be her entire life versus who she is truly at her core.
That circles back to Dane, of she already believed that she is a scribe. And she was always like, hey, I don't want to be a dragon rider. As soon as her own insecurity is said to her, she's a little bit spiteful, a little like she has a little bit of not spiteful. What's the spite? It's
Spite, yeah.
He mansplains to her and tells her what to do.
I may say this, but no one's going to tell me what to do.
I think it's a little bit of like, when someone says something to you and it's maybe an insult, but there's a little bit of truth behind it, you're like, well, you, like, that's very rude. And then internally you're like, I think a little bit of it was the mirror aspect of, he is saying, oh, well, you can just go and choose the safe option. And she's now, for the first time, being given a fork in the road where it's like, I could go choose the safe option. I think there's a line where it's like, this might be an Iron Flame, but it's not a spoiler. It's like, I thought at one point in my life, the most dangerous thing I'd ever be doing would be climbing a ladder in the archives.
Yeah.
That's option one. But now she's being shown this option two, where it involves being super powerful, being badass, and being like in an element that she's never truly been before, and she starts to like it. So I think it's when he says like, oh, well, you should just go choose the safe path, that she's like, you know what, mirror, maybe I don't want to. And she chooses the other one. Now, I do think also a little bit of it is Dane's inability, I'm going to call it an inability, to see the second path for her and to believe in her. Like, even when she bonds with two dragons, he's like, choose the safer one, choose the one that doesn't fly and doesn't breathe fire. And she's like, but what about this giant one that can save me for the rest of my life? Yeah.
That Dane
there's a
pissed
reason
me
we call
off.
him GFDD.
He pissed me off greatly at that point. All the way up until that point, I was kind of on Dane's side. Dane in
and I
the
think you're
right.
supposed to be, sort of, ish.
Yeah, like going, kind of being a dick about it sometimes, but also he's on all just practicality levels. Yeah, she's in great danger. He cares about her a lot, and she's at such a disadvantage of, hey, I'm going to find a loophole to get you out of this incredibly dangerous situation. And all the trauma that I've been going through, like the amount of death and killing, you have to kill these people. Like, who would want their person they care about to go through that?
Yep, exactly.
It's at the point where like now she has dragons and she has actually improved in her abilities and just training up. She now can actually fight.
That's the thing. I think
she's won all these duels. And it's like, at that point, what the hell are you doing?
And also,
be supportive.
There's like the two flaws there in her character. I don't know if both can be addressed in the book, because at the one hand, the courage, the courage, physical strength part versus that, and then the other part. Great point. By the way, this is so helpful for us, because seeing why the love beyond Fourth Wing, like these are thought processes of them going. Like, it makes sense why this book has way more popularity than anything behind us on our shelf does. It's amazing.
Yeah,
so
I'm looking at big old that like. Wheel of Time. I love it. It's even got a show. A crappy show.
Fourth Wing's still bigger.
Fourth Wing's still bigger.
Way bigger.
Well,
but sorry, Nicole, go ahead.
No. I was gonna say I think there's a reason behind that, but then I realized we're gonna be talking about that on the video that we're recording after this. So
yes, we will be on.
Great plug.
Exactly.
We're doing another show. We're on with the Fantasy Fangirls on their podcast. You should check it out.
We'll be on there. It's gonna be great.
Please wear the dragon wings. That's my only request.
Of course,
to be on there.
But so Violet, as she's dealing with the courage, the physical strength part, then the can't kill. So at a certain point, if she with her having powerful dragon, powerful ability, the kind of whole physical strength thing becomes less of an issue, where it's just I'm not as like the whole point of her having to overcome her disability
and having great courage,
outsmart people. Just by the midway point of the book, I'm looking then and onward going, well, she no longer needs to be super smart, or obviously she can be put in scenarios in the future books, I'm sure, but she is now has the second most powerful dragon in the entire realm, because I think that general has the bigger dragon.
Yeah.
And she has time-stopping ability, at least maybe it went away at the end, sort of thing there, but time-stopping plus lightning, which, by the way, would have been smart to freeze time and lightning. That would have been a cool scene. If we saw, like, time freeze, lightning, boom, boom, boom. That would have been so cool.
This is the fantasy fan of me of I started theory breaking on her
that
time.
actually does
That
happen
actually
in
is
the
a
final
scene.
battle. Yes, it literally stops time and she
Yeah.
warps the lightning bolt.
Yes,
to
she does
hit
at the end.
villain.
Oh, she does?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Yes, she
It's a very
freezes time
fast-paced
and
scene.
she is controlling
she
the
goes,
light.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that scene did happen. No, better one.
It's okay. I
that
didn't catch it on
was-
my first
okay.
read either. You're good.
Lexi, this is to you because you're the world theory. Like when the scene happened when she first used the time stopping ability, and ultimately, roughly 30 seconds, maybe a minute max of time stop ability, and then dragon pooped out. That was too much. Okay, and I was thinking, okay, that's the limit. It's 30 seconds to a minute total. I was going, well, this would be a way for her to get out of the duels and how she can have a fighting edge of imagine her coming at a strike with a right hook, time stop, switch to the left, or adjust slightly, then refreeze time. And I was just imagining her using time stop in like a fraction of a second, stop time, adjust, and being able to outsmart. I was going so theories of like, oh, how is she going to use the time stopping ability? And she didn't use it enough that I wanted
I
to.
think
I was-
she does use it at the end with the lightning.
Point.
Is that right? She does use it at the end?
Yes.
With the
Yeah,
lightning?
she
Okay.
does use it at the end there, and that's
totally
a great
missed that.
point. In that, so two things to say about that is one is yes, the whole thing about her not using it often whatsoever is because it is so draining for Andarna, and the reason that these younglings don't bond with people is because the younglings do have their the hatchlings do have like their inner power, and they're not able to control it in the same way. So it's very dangerous to bond with someone who could then essentially take that power from them versus, manifest their own signet. And so there is just almost like that, I'll say, there's, what's the right word that I'm looking for there? It's a little, they don't know how to make it. I don't have my notes, and this is really hard.
Because
No,
it's the
so
young
that
dragon,
it's-
there's no way to hold off the floodgates. It's a kind of all on or all
there's no
off.
way. Yeah, there's no way
Yeah.
to. There's no way to manage the
Whereas
power
with-
in that same kind of precision sort of way. Now, as far as we know, and because the power is like drains her so much, Violet, who is a very caring person, who is kind of almost becomes like an aunt motherly figure to Andarna, is like, I'm not going to do that for her just for my own selfish reasons. Like, if I'm going to be in this fight, then I need to figure it out myself. So I'm not going to drain her energy and essentially sacrifice her. Not like her completely, but just like, her energy, how her entire life, day-to-day life.
And then there's also
Makes
the curveball where if leadership finds out about the gifts that younglings have. So there's two different types of dragon powers, we'll call them. When they're younglings, they have gifts, and those are like something that they have that they can apparently give to others, but no one in leadership, no one in Navarre knows that except for Violet and Xaden now. But then there's the signet, which they channel through their rider. That's only what older dragons can do. So Andarna has this gift that she's giving to Violet in these moments that's super, super draining. But if she does like the hook and then the switch up and like all that kind of stuff, leadership might be like, what the fuck was that? Let's look into that thing. And there's that moment with Daddy Atos where, or Colonel Atos, excuse me, call him Daddy Atos, where Daddy Atos is basically like, hey, so there's that research that your father does on, feather tails, on feather tails that I'd love to, look at and learn about. Like, they're trying to learn about what these hidden gifts are with dragons. And if they learn about it, they wouldn't turn the valve off. They would just let the floodgates open, and they would basically, for lack of a better term,
Take.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Violet's like, let's not have that happen. So she wants to keep it hidden.
It is hard for me to imagine that the dragons would just let that happen.
Oh, they
seem
they
pretty.
would
They
not
seem
be
pretty.
happy about it.
they seem pretty chill with going like, as soon as the human steps slightly out of line, doesn't matter which human, just gonna eat them.
Yeah, what was all that about? Like the people, like, they're walking through next to the dragons, and they're trying to bind the dragon. They're all being assholes. They're like
presentation day.
To show the dragons, like, I want to be bonded. Let me go like pick on everybody in line. Like, obviously as maybe it's a posturing way to be like, oh, the dragons want to see strength, but it's like you're supposed to be on your best behavior though, and just everyone's unnecessary. Like, why is Jack such a dick? I just don't okay, I get it. He's written as a mean character.
Why is he such a, oh my gosh.
That's a very valid question.
He is so unreasonably mean to where I get we don't see a whole backstory of what childhood trauma he has. It's just, even someone, the Joker movie, you know, Homelander, you know, Hannibal Lecter, they are nicer people than Jack. Jack is just he's a psycho. He
absolutely is. And so also remember that power hungry people want more power. The dickheads always want more power, and that is why so many dicks go into the writer's quadrant, because they want to have that power. Like, and Jack is particularly very power hungry.
So, like, for instance, he bonded with Andarna. He would just stop time left and right until she died, basically.
Exactly.
But
and he wanted Karen because he wanted the biggest and the baddest dragon. Exactly.
And he
seems like a bundle of bad decisions for the
and that is
military.
all I can say here.
Yes, that is it.
with a lot of these characters too, with Jack, and they definitely fit their role. Like, you can tell, okay, Jack is the mean villain and mini antagonist.
Mean is almost too light. He's a psychopathic killer. He's not a little like, ooh, I'm gonna like trip Violet in the lunch hall. No, it's, I'm gonna stab you in the back like while you sleep.
I'm gonna kill the dragon because I can, and it's small.
More like, it's small. Let's kill the dragon, even though all the dragons really seem to not like that whole thing.
Which, to a degree, I can appreciate that they're not trying to make a sympathetic little antagonist. Like, I get that.
That's
you
true.
know, I'm
the
sick
of my sympathetic antagonists.
But then when we see when Xaden's presented from the get-go as your bad boy, you know what? Let's get into this conversation. Okay, we've been shredding around
Big Daddy Xaden.
Big Daddy Xaden.
Daddy.
And we've been not talking about two scenes particularly that happen in this book with Xaden and Vi. Okay, a lot of this book we're talking dragons, we're talking world. And one of the examples here of like the freeze time lightning, I didn't remember that when we're talking about it, because a lot of this, I don't think that a reader like Rich and I give it the credit that a book that so outside our genre would deserve. Like, those deep dives, you guys have talked about this book so often and have provided answers that make perfect sense, by the way. Like, this is so well done, because maybe when we're reading it, on the one hand, seeing kind of knowing where the story is going to go. That was one thing we saw with Xaden and Dane. And the one thing we knew from reading Aquitar and just seeing the dynamic with the love triangle was so fascinating. And since we have you two here, we have to ask you, is this what women want?
So I'm actually going to alter what you're calling a love triangle.
Yes,
it's never been a love triangle. Rebecca Yarros is very like, I hate love triangles. It is not a love triangle because it was never all at the same time, kind of thing.
Fair enough. Okay.
So in that terms, and it's, to put it bluntly, who wants their childhood best friend to be telling her what to do and how, not believing in her by any means? And then this sexy Xaden comes in and is like, hey, like, you can do big things. You can do, like, he brings out this confidence in her. He believes in her, even when he is literally essentially trying, like, she thinks that he's trying to kill her and wants her dead, and which really, messes with her mind, as we all know. And that's where she's suddenly, like, she needed somebody to believe in her in that kind of way. Like, yes, of course, she has her squad who all believe in one another. Like, that's like you were saying, like, everybody has a role, and that's one of those. But then, like, the older student, the older,
always the older
dragon
guy.
rider, like the biggest and baddest
not
guy.
As much as an age gap in Aquitar, so it's
you can do this. And that's where.
He is better. But there are moments where Xaden, like, puts his foot down, like, no, I'm gonna put a guard on you, and like she doesn't like it of him telling her what to do, but then also is like, yeah, he's kind of right.
Dane and Xaden both do things to protect her, but since Xaden more respects her and Dane more coddles her, it seems like, because
I know exactly what you're about to say, Nicole.
Yeah, I'm figured you do. Ahead. So in our deep dives, one of the things that I was watching like a hawk was there is a thing in Romantasy, and this is not just Fourth Wing, but it's very prominent in Fourth Wing, where Xaden is always stepping either to the side of Violet or behind her, whereas Dane is always stepping in front of her. Whenever it's like, let me protect you, Violet, meh, versus Xaden, who's like, I'm going to stand right here. I'm going to watch you. Do you need me or are you good? Now, I'm purposefully leaving Liam off the table because with Liam, there's some context that we're missing from Iron Flame that I'll hold off about, but I'll talk about the stuff that we do know in Fourth Wing. The Maid of Dragons, he knew if Violet died, Taryn died, Scale died, Xaden died.
He's protecting his own ass there.
He's like, I like living. Like also he's in charge of 107 other people. If he dies, what happens to those 107 other people? So this thing with Liam is like, I'm doing this, yes, to protect you, but it's so it doesn't set off a chain of events where literally 109 people die. So the thing I love though about that, when I'm going back to the stepping to the side thing, is Austin, you asked, is this what women want? Yes. but it's not like the like,
I guess I gotta get that weird leg surgery. Get myself above into
it's not in a way of like, oh, I want to be this like let me just be the big macho man like Dane who like steps in front of you. It's the let me support you and watch you step into the most powerful version that you can possibly be. I think Violet would have made it to the end of Fourth Wing if it wasn't for Xaden, but I don't think she would have nearly have been as confident or as sure of herself, especially when it comes to fighting the Venom at the very end. And the reason I think Xaden is so many women have fallen ferally head over heels for this man, myself included, and my husband knows it. But like,
real quickly, Nicole is married to a Liam/Dane.
Good parts of Dane.
he's a rule follower. He is a rule follower through and through. Yes, but then he's also a golden retriever like Liam, just for some context.
Yes, he's not a Xaden. I love him dearly. He's not a Xaden. But like, I think that it's women are wanting, and I think this is one of the reasons these books are becoming so they are so popular, is because women are really wanting to see that man who is standing off to the side, who is supporting them, but not the man who is stepping in front of them saying, I got this, baby. Let me do this for you. You know what I mean?
Yes. And it's have you ever heard that Bo Burnham song about what guys and girls are looked for?
Good girl, smart girl.
You want a really hot girl. And then say, but the person doesn't actually exist. And then the guy, it's like, and last week she died. Like that whole song. We know the Bo Burnham song, where it's the joke about the guy that doesn't exist or the girl that doesn't exist. Point being, Xaden was so overly like, not just bad boy and does everything perfectly right, also super attracted to her, but also super, super pro-consent, which is, yes, of course, be pro-consent, but he was like overtly
I agree.
Perfect.
It was a little too much.
That was the thing that Nicole actually went on about during our deep dive. She's like, okay, Xaden, you don't have to keep asking. Shut up. So I do have a question, because I know that from your ACOTAR coverage, you were like, wow, we don't get sex scenes like this in our kind of fantasy books.
No.
And that was ACOTAR. That was child's play. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So let's talk, like, Fourth Wing, that is certainly not child's play.
No, but I do want to caveat. I have heard all my life of, the male gaze. Ugh, guys, you're so gross. Like, stop objectifying women. Ugh, terrible. Fair enough. Guys can be gross. I understand it. Violet's, like, female gaze, no platform to stand on. Zero platform to stand on.
She is a 20-year-old horny girl. Yes, she is.
People were dying next to her. Dying, falling to their deaths. And she's like, oh my God, Xaden's so fucking hot.
I know I'm about to die, but I just gotta mount him right now in the middle of this storm. Like, Jesus Christ, lady.
Sorry, Lexi, what were you saying there?
No, but that's where we could all laugh about this, is because that is like one of the things I kind of have to compartmentalize, because it is so on the page. And it's like, again, like when you like one of the big things that we like to do in our deep dives is put ourselves always in our character's shoes. She is a 20-year-old horny girl, so super hot guys right there. Yeah, I was probably like that too. And we're in her head and her narrative, and it's just so funny to be reading that, because it's like, okay, girl, like you can tone it down. Like you're at like a level 12. Let's take to like an 8-7 maybe. Like that would be a good sweet spot there.
And then what makes it even doubles down is we get the Xaden chapter of like apparently he was instantly like super into her as well. And a part of this conversation is this now seeing how attracted they were to each other and just how that's all played out. Is this love or is this lust?
Oh, that,
is this,
I think
are we talking about, is this a love story about, hey, Nicole, I don't mean to tread on, like, I know Xaden's for you.
Mouth shut right now because I know things that you guys don't.
Okay.
I am pretty confident that this is like 95% lust. For the most part, there are moments of love becoming. I get it.
They trauma bond.
Yes. They do lots of trauma bonding.
Yes.
Completely get that. For most of the book, it's lust. And also just a kind of a power trip of like, I understand the villain, like the villain to lover trope. Mm-hmm. The whole thing is a villain to be a villain, an enemy to lover. An enemy has to respect you. That's the nature of Xaden. Like I get that's the kind of the big reason. Mm-hmm. So I understand that, and that's the love comes from that sense of self-respect, all that.
What do you both think about that, Nicole? You have a point there, Nicole.
I do, and this is book 1 of 5, right? And the way that Rebecca has plotted out, I've done a lot of research on this. The way that Rebecca has plotted out the series is in the form of a W, right? Which means we start off with this big triggering event, then there's this big turning point, then there's a second triggering event, a second turning point, and then there's a resolution at the end. We are in the triggering point of the entire series, right? With Fourth Wing. And I agree, actually, that a lot of this book is lust. And I'm going to be honest, I am the hopeless romantic between the two of us, like we've mentioned. It was a little too fast with love. And I was like, whoa, you dropped I love you way too quickly. You got 4 more books, girl. Like you can hold on a second. But
and then she was so pissed he wouldn't say like that part too. Like she was all of a sudden like, give me your deepest, darkest secrets ever.
Yeah, please. Lay on me like the fate of 120 something people of like, oh, I'm so offended. You didn't tell me your deepest, darkest secret of the thing that all these lives are on the back.
Oh, by the way, we say this all very respectfully. We're having a great time.
We're having an awesome time.
And it's like, and I'm not like I'm loving this back and forth here so much. Really
not offended in the slightest.
And it's so funny because I laugh because Rebecca has kind of defended Xaden in that way, where it's like, yeah, that is a flaw of Violet's, is that she is. All she needs is information. Like information centers her. Like that is why she was going to be a scribe. So she is like, I need to know everything. And Xaden is essentially a CIA agent, as Rebecca has compared him to, where it's like he is the head of a rebellion. Like, of course he's not going to be able to tell her everything, right? And a lot of book 2 is them having to work through that together, with her being very much like, I need to know everything. You tell me your secrets kind of thing. You lied to me. And he's just like, yeah,
I can't.
Obviously.
Yeah. So I do think a big part of book 1 is a lot of the lust. I think it's like the loving the mannerisms of the
honeymoon
person.
Phase.
That's the perfect way of putting it, big sister. Yes, like it is the honeymoon
so much
phase.
Like lust. Yeah,
and they're now in their biggest trial that they face so far. And it's like when you're with someone and then you like have your first big fight and you're like, ooh, we got to work through some stuff together and trudge through the mud a little bit. And they're in their trudging through the mud phase a little bit.
So what you're telling me is book 3 is the rebound guy. Ooh. That's what I'm hearing.
There is quite a rumor around that. How interesting.
Oh, that's the peak of the W, I think.
Yeah.
You're missing some big context there, but sure.
You asked us a question that we a little bit avoided about the explicit scenes in this book, where the explicit scenes so seeing Akatar to this was way more descriptive.
I'm very glad I was not on.
Yeah.
Reading this kind of stuff in public places just boggles my mind. That's I now see I can't unsee this now if I'm looking across at an airport and I see a woman reading like Fourth Wing or one of the more smuttier versions in the ACOTAR series of like some Sarah J. Maas, like, you know, book 8, 10.
Silver
whatever.
Flames,
It's
yeah.
like,
Silver Guides.
it goes
Like,
straight to smut. I was deeply uncomfortable reading the ACOTAR sex scenes on an airplane. I felt
With
like on my
Tamlin?
audiobook listening to it, like 2 women were next to me. I'm just going, this is weird. I don't like this at all. Not
I
one
would
bit.
love so much to be one of those women sitting next to you. I can't tell you. I would probably tell everyone that I knew that I was sitting next to a guy reading ACOTAR.
I was doing a deep dive of chapter 32 of Fourth Wing, which God are you calling out for, Violet? Because it's only me and you in this room, and I don't share. Yes, I have that entire scene memorized. You're welcome. But
goodness.
that scene I was reading and doing the deep dive of on the plane, and that means I have a split screen of the ebook and my outline, and there is this probably 50-year-old man sitting next to me, and I'm just like, smite me now, like just throw a lightning bolt.
I would not have done it. I would have been like, I can't do this right now.
It was a deadline. I think it was like the day before we were recording, and I had to do
gosh.
it. I was like so stressed out. It's fine.
Well,
We
for
didn't
me,
speak.
like
We didn't
I mostly listen to the audiobooks. I have 2 very young children. I have a 1.5-year-old, and my son just turned 3. And so I in order to read anything, I have to listen to audiobooks. And yes, those specific scenes. Like I remember ones like I was putting my daughter to sleep, and I had it in my earbud, and it's like, and I can't look at my children in the eye while my ear.
And is this, so you've read plenty of romantic scenes. This is your genre. Is this one of the more visceral, the more descriptive scenes that you see in the space? Is this typical?
I'd say
Is
that's
it tame?
typical.
It's typical.
I put it a little bit more descriptive
I'd say descriptive
and
like,
Yeah.
longer.
because
Yes,
There's only in Fourth Wing. There's only 2 scenes. I'd say on a smut scale, if we're looking at chili peppers, right? I'd
Yep.
say 5 chili peppers is like there is no plot. It is just smut for days.
Mhm.
That is not my jam, personally.
Me either.
I need plot. I need lore. I need
my fantasy
I
lore.
need my elements of fantasy. And that is too much. 4, I'd put like a Quart of Silver Flames is a
Me too.
good.
That's the one I was thinking of.
The
where
Silver
where
Flames
it's like, wow, like there's a lot in here.
that is
Sorry,
is
that's
a
not really
descriptive
that's
book.
kind of known in the
Oh no,
fandom,
no,
yeah.
we're aware.
And then
I
I'd
would
put
put
like
Fourth
I'd
Wing
put this in like 2.5. I'd put, or maybe
I
even
put-
to 2.
I'd put Fourth Wing at maybe a 3
Okay.
for
Okay.
myself.
It's
I would
not
put
the,
Iron Flame
it's
at
not the quantity, but it's the of the 2 scenes that they have. It's
kind of goes on, huh?
It goes
Yeah.
on a minute.
Yeah.
I will say there's
it keeps going.
Iron Flame that is lengthy.
Iron Flame has a higher spice rating.
Like by one scene.
Wow.
By one scene.
Oh,
But it's a descriptive
Yes.
scene. Like it is
Yes.
about as descriptive as it goes.
gotta tell you, fantasy and sci-fi written by guys, not the same. Not the same. I
not.
gotta say,
It is-
I appreciate now just the cut to black. Like I'm just wonderful. It keeps. I don't know. I like that now. I
feel for
realized
you.
what I
That's
like.
wonderful.
I don't need it. In books, it's just. I don't know why it feels weird.
That's the
get
thing
it.
too. Oh, go ahead.
Well, also even
No,
if
I
the
get,
guy,
I get it. Yeah.
even when a guy is like, even the sex scenes in more, not standard fantasy, but
Neuromancer, a
neuromancer,
sci-fi.
a
Yeah.
sci-fi, a fantasy book written by a guy, basically. The sex scenes there are normally a lot quicker,
Yes.
2 a lot less descriptive, but also in some way more blunt.
Well, also it's
Blunt, vulgar, quick, and all about the physical aspect, and then gone.
It's to
Where-
the
That
point.
That sounds
where it's
like a guy
romantically
waiting it for sure.
descriptive.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
That summarizes pretty well.
If I'm looking very stereotypically, I'm not saying that this is everyone, but very stereotypically, women tend to lean more into like the emotional side of it. They want to feel the feelings that are having on the page, right? Whereas guys are cut and dry. They want to know the descriptions and they call it a day. Like they're good. So again, I'm being very, very like stereotypical. That's not everyone, but if we're looking just
no, it's
at
a generalization. Yeah.
Generalization.
Oh, yeah, no.
No, very fair.
So-
Yeah.
I will say personally, I enjoy some things like I think about when it comes to like descriptiveness. If it's much more descriptive, then I'll even say like Iron Flame. That's when I'm like, okay, this is just a little in my face. I like it to be a nice like balance between there's plot happening and there's also romance happening. One of the things I love about these two series is that Rebecca Yarros is a master at saying, hey, look over here, look over here. There's this really important thing happening right here, but look over there, look over there.
Yeah.
Both of those sex scenes, there's very important things that are happening between the lines that you do not learn about until later.
Because you're focused on other things.
Because you're focusing on the fact that cock's on the page and you're like, whoa, like, that's aggressive.
And the other thing too is that Rebecca is first and foremost a romance writer. This was her first fantasy book. So she is actually a contemporary romance writer. Mm-hmm. So this was like literally in her element. And so kind of adding the fantasy part to it is completely new for her. So I'm not surprised at all by this author including those kind of descriptions when it isn't, at least with the romantasy that we really read, where it is a little bit more like, you know, more fantasy focused versus the romance focused. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's definitely better written than a lot of, so comparison. Yes, for me, it's like too much, don't need that much in the book, but it sounds way less awkward through her words than reading Neuromancer. At some point after this call, it's like less than a paragraph long, and it sounds just gross and and awkward and weird. It's weird. I don't know how to explain it. This
Google's
was both awkward for me,
this call.
but also far more smooth and not awkward.
I gotta say, as much as we're tossing a lot out here, this was a very easy read for me.
Yes.
And not easy in like, oh, I'm such a good reader kind of way. Just I didn't have to pause very much. Well,
that's what it's supposed to be. She's made this what she wanted to be the gateway for a lot of people who specifically read romance. And she's like, I want this to be the gateway for people to read fantasy. So she purposefully made this like very, very easy to understand. I'll even throw Iron Flame is similar. It definitely builds. This is going to be a series that builds on the world as you go through it. But I think that's very much on purpose.
Yeah, it's one of the, so I guess a lot of the things we can start closing off here to not take more of your time. We also got to go and talk on your channel shortly. So that a lot of what Rich and I come in here thinking, if I could speak for us for a second,
go ahead,
is with the kind of books we read, and we're going into Fourth Wing, and I guess right from chapter 1, we just knew where it was going. You know, we knew going to end up with Xaden, as you both did too. It's not that we're any smarter than anybody else. It's just we know where it's going. We know she's going to bond a dragon. We know she's going to be triumphant. And the whole ride of it is, can you get behind like her and Xaden getting together? Are you invested in that relationship? Are you invested in like the world around it as the primary reason why you both love it? Nicole, you're into that hopeless romantic. You love it. And Lexi, you got that whole background and like, okay, look at the lore this is building. You do these deep dives. And just from the get-go with Rich and I, if both of those were like, all right, the world and the military, like that doesn't make sense. But again, there's an explanation, but we're just going like, but they could just do a boring way of going into the infantry, as you mentioned. or on the other hand, going like, all right, gonna end up with Xaden. We're gonna get some sex scenes. Okay. I guess I'm just kind of encapsulating why and to you audience, if you are into these kind of books, they're the channel to go to, clearly. We'll give you our takes, but Lexi and Nicole, if you want to encapsulate again why you love Fourth Wing, and then we can transition and get. Oh, and Rich, you have something there?
I actually do have a question for both of you. Have either of you read The Way of Kings?
Oh,
no, but I've heard of it.
Yes.
Perfect. Just like Fourth Wing was your introduction to your podcast. This was the book that started it all for you guys. The book that started us, our first video, was The Way of Kings. By Brandon Sanderson.
I was going to say, like, I think that sounds like a Brandon Sanderson book. I am so excited to read it. Everyone's like, Lexi, you would absolutely love his books. And I know I need to. I'm finishing Kingdom of Ash right now by Sarah J. Maas. So
I think it would be a great thing. We did a review about Fourth Wing, your guys' starting out book for YouTube, our podcast and everything. I think it'd be great if you guys did The Way of Kings, and we did a review on that. You could provide a little bit of critique of like, what is this? What is Brandon Sanderson doing here? This is stupid. He could have just done this. And, oh my God. just get laid already. Like, you're so pent up. Like, come on.
That's me.
She's there. Like,
They might not like the book. I don't know. I don't know.
I bet I would.
Lexi is when I was introducing her to A Court of Thorns and Roses, it was a toss up on whether or not she would like it, because this was much more up my alley, where it's like, ooh, like there's fae, there's romance, there's kind of like a Beauty and the Beast retelling. Of course, I knew some information that I'm not going to share on this podcast, but on this channel. But it was very much a toss up on if she was going to enjoy it or not, because she's very much in the Brandon Sanderson. Like, she hasn't read it, but that's
Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
Like, that's like literally one of my like comfort reads that I read to like when I go to sleep at night.
Read.
That's an interesting comfort read.
But like,
I just like listen to it so many times, you know. So
on the show, it's become a joke that whenever a joke between us when we're doing our outlines, whenever there's a sex scene, Nicole takes it. Like, that is all blue at that
and then when
point.
there's like a crazy info dump, like it's like, okay, I
Lexi
get
takes
it.
that. Like,
that's something I gotta mention. This it was so funny to me that Violet's personality quirk was that when she gets nervous, she info dumps. I just thought, like, you remember that?
That is a convenient way for the author to really get that info dump. So that
is very true. I do have a question though for you. You were saying it's kind of like you kind of see it coming from the first few chapters. Did you see the ending, the cliffhanger with Brennan still being alive? Did you see that coming?
I can say I didn't say that would happen in my head. I can't say 100% certainly, but it didn't surprise me, but I didn't see it coming. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. I felt the same way, because it was like, I didn't expect it to happen, and I love to like theorize about what's going to happen next and whatnot. And it was kind of like okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, okay, actually, I have some questions for you two.
Oh, please.
Okay.
What do you think is going to happen in Iron Flame?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Because
we don't know. These aren't spoilers.
Yeah, we
these
have no
are
idea.
just theories.
I'm very curious.
Yep.
Based on our conversation, I'm gonna guess there's another sex scene. That's
I think.
Okay.
No, it
that's
doesn't
pretty
happen,
good.
actually.
That's a pretty good guess.
What do you think, Rich?
I mean, my guess is already Violet is on the camp of, okay, infiltrate into Xaden's camp. She's now on the side of the rebels, but I don't think it's going to be fully in there, but we're going to see more of her playing both sides. So she has to keep the secret. We're going to see more of the Griffin riders. There's probably going to be some type of link between. There's going to be some weird, cool combo power between Griffin abilities and dragon abilities of them coming together in that aspect. But I think by the end of that book, the kingdom, like, she's going to be excised from the kingdom side. She's now going to fully be outside of the kingdom.
Can you remind me where did her sister end? Could you remind me that? Or
her
she's
sister's
alive.
Still at Montserrat. She's
her sister's
alive at the at that outpost that she's working at.
Mm-hmm.
And I think her sister is also still going to be with the kingdom, and that's going to be the rift. Is she's going to be the loyalist, and she's not going to see it first. Especially with
so
the
you
setup.
think Mira doesn't know about any of the things that Navarre is keeping secret or anything like that?
No. I think she does.
Oh, you think she does know? Okay.
Oh,
she chooses not. She has chosen the side.
Okay.
That's my assumption, especially with how they set up of like the mother talking about like, hey, Violet's a lot smarter than you, Mira. But
so I do have another question. So knowing that she has 2 dragons, do you think that it's possible Violet will have 2 signets?
Yeah.
What do you think her second signet would be?
Well, going by what you guys were talking about, it comes from
what they need.
So who you are, and then what you need.
Correct.
She is courageous and very smart. So, like, those are the 2 things, I guess, if we were put in the camps. Her courage comes from her like the fact that she is very weak and she needs physical strength. She got the lightning. So she is very smart. What does she need for her intelligence? I think story-wise, it could be a very... Like, I already know one of the things of one of the... Like, so Xaden, I know his other thing that is revealed in the next book.
Yep.
but I think that her second signet has to be somehow tied to her intelligence. It either makes her, she's able to project, maybe she can't read other people's minds, but she can project her mind to other people that she's talked about, or some type of hive mind-esque that allows her to gain knowledge or maybe
Telepathy?
gain abilities from other people. Something I am at something to do that makes her smarter and more tactful. That's my guess.
That's a great guess.
I love it.
That's a great guess. I think that, I don't know if it's going to be this next book or if this is the whole thing. So there's the one, not the Wyverns, but the people from the Barrens, the
Venom.
Venom. So I think they aren't the final boss here. I think it's set up that the final boss is this general and the society. So it's going to be a rebel against society.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Exactly.
It's not the Battle of Winterfell. It's actually the battle in King's Landing.
Precisely.
Yes.
So I think that we're going to see, I don't think this next book will be the right time to do it, but her and her dragon going to have to face off against General and the big bad dragon.
Oh,
that's got to happen at some point.
That's eventual. That's inevitable.
It's maybe at the end of the W, but I think it's leading up for, we'll take care of them over there, and then the final stage of Fourth Wing is we take care of the what we think are the bad guys, but then the true bad guys is our society as a whole, and fixing this whole Rider Squadron, not killing all of our kids, making a more just society. I think
we're both completely wrong, and most of the current monarchy leadership is axed off, and now we have the new blood that already comes in. We drop all pretenses, and now Violet is a part of the new revolutionized kingdom, and so now she's in a position of authority, and now we're gonna attack the big villain together.
I kind of just like the idea that Dylan survived and he becomes king. Let's just end it with that.
There we go.
Good.
That's all.
Okay, last question is,
yeah.
Rebecca Yarros in this series is known for having absolutely brutal cliffhangers. What do you think the cliffhanger is of Iron Flame?
Oh, that's when Mira shows her true colors and betrays Violet.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Ooh, because
Okay.
Yep.
Could be that betrayal, or she finds out how her father died. The truth behind that.
Okay.
Maybe that could
mother,
be either
mother actually killed the father.
That could be either inciting incident for next book, or maybe that's the reveal at the end to hook you.
Or maybe Xaden's dad, or it would probably make sense that the mother, if anyone had to kill the father, and if the father's dead, then
he found out something happened,
and with tears in her eyes, the mother actually kills off her husband, and then that's
maybe that could be one of the things. Could be, yeah. Those are our guesses. We'll see.
love it.
I'm honestly very impressed.
I love it so much. Yes, I am very impressed.
Not saying that they're correct. I'm just impressed.
Especially for that, just like one off right there. Yeah, exactly.
By the way, I promise you, we've given this zero thought. This is, and I generally mean this. This was a very fun episode. I
still want time stop fight scenes. I think it'd be so cool.
Who says they're done, Richard?
Hey,
true, but I was just the tactfulness of it, of being able to throw a punch and slightly adjust and just someone going what the doesn't even have to be big, a different fist. It's you punch, freeze time, little closer, unfreeze time, and all the distance is messed up. I think that would just be so cool.
Honestly, that would be a badass.
That really would be. And I'll be honest, I never thought of that until you brought it up.
Yep.
And I was, able to explain it in the context of what we have available to us. But it's actually would be really freaking
That would
cool.
have been really cool. Yeah.
You both gave us such insight on why you guys love Fourth Wing. So thank you for this. This was a fun episode for us. And we're going to be talking for another whole while on their channel. And if Nicole, Lexi, do you want to end off with, you have a show coming up soon?
We do.
Yes.
So we are doing our first standalone live show in Denver, Colorado. It is going to be on October 20th, and we are going to be talking about Empyrean. We have not announced our exact topic yet, but it is going to be right in this realm of things here. So yes.
Oh, yes.
And you can find us on TikTok and Instagram. We are very, very active on social media at Fantasy Fangirls Pod. And of course, you can find us on YouTube or any of your podcast platforms.
And if you like Fourth Wing, we have 52 hours of deep diving Fourth Wing and Iron Flame ready for you
Yes.
to go. And
Yes.
if you like, because we've had several people who are like, I didn't really love Fourth Wing, or I didn't really love ACOTAR, but deep diving it made me like it a lot more and appreciate the world a lot more. We're your girls. Or we'll just make you, your ears want to bleed for 52 hours. No matter what, we're there.
Rich and I aren't fans of Fourth Wing. We're fans of you both, though. You're done an awesome job, like on all of your channel. I've checked out some of those videos, and I mean, I'm not super interested in Fourth Wing, so it's hard to be like, oh, what's going on here? And I should also say, you both, once you read Way of Kings, hit us up, please. We would love to do that.
I am excited.
Rich, that was a great idea.
Yes.
I love that idea.
That's
I'm
inevitable.
very excited. Yes.
Well,
All
and
right,
when you read Akamath, you need to hit us up.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Deal.
Like,
Yes.
I
All right.
need an Austin retelling to Richard who has not read Akamath. I need that retelling. I need
Absolutely.
more desperately than I thought I would need a retelling of a book
I was
I've
actually
read a
saying to
lot.
Nicole, and I know we're coming up on time here, but I was saying to Nicole, because she does the recaps for like each of our episodes where, you know, she recaps however many chapters there are. And it's not like your usual recap. Like she throws in as many possible pop culture references in there. And I think that you two need to do like a recap off, like a dance off, but a recap off.
This is okay.
I
So how
accept
do we
this
do a
challenge.
recap?
Oh,
off
I
where
have no idea. That's all I got so far.
Okay, let me write this down. By the way, I had extensive notes on this Fourth Wing episode.
So did I.
Close it. I gave up after as soon as spoilers started. I said, "Screw this."
I'm sorry, I derailed.
No, I think it was definitely my
Slammed.
fault. But all these notes just go to waste. I think we brought up like at least a quarter of it, so I'm happy. But I will write that down. So a recap off.
A recap.
Hey, if you want
We might have
details,
to name it something else, but I don't know. But it's just like, oh my gosh, I was
Down.
listening to yours and I was dying laughing. I even had my husband start listening to it because he hasn't read ACOTAR either.
Yeah.
Or, you know, he hadn't read it. And he's like, okay, this is the recap I need. Get like
Yes.
a guy. And we all, you know, we're all around the same age. So you get the pop culture references that Nicole did. Anyway, I think it'd be really fun.
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
All right.
Rich, you want to sign us off?
yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, all those things. Go check out the Fantasy Fangirls.
Oh, also our
It's gonna be
book
great.
club.
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
we have things to promote too. Go check out our book club. Patreon link down below. It's awesome. It's fun. You pay us money. We talk about books with you. It's a good time.
And sometimes books like this. So if you're 18 plus, join the book club. Let's say
yes, 18 plus.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next episode.
Bye.
Bye.